Hi, I'm Joe Walensky. I'm the principal of Walensky and Associates, and we have an event coming up called Writers UA East, which is going to take place in Raleigh, North Carolina, in cooperation with the Department of English at North Carolina State University. So we're excited about that. That'll be October 4th and 5th, and I get a chance to talk with our many speakers, and today I'm visiting with Michelle Corbin. Hello, Michelle. How are you today?
Hi, Joe. I'm doing great.
I'm speaking from my home office in Seattle. Where are you talking to us from?
I'm in my home office in Cary, North Carolina.
Well, it's good to have you in the program. The best place to start would be just finding out a little bit about your background and the types of things that you do for work.
Okay. I've been a technical communicator for over 25 years now. I started out as a technical writer, and I transitioned into technical editing by way of some development editing at a computer book publisher. Along the way, I picked up some information architecture and terminologist tasks and roles. And now I've landed back into some web editing and traditional web information architecture, which I'm really enjoying. I work at IBM, and I work for a website called IBM Code, which is a website that delivers tutorials and articles and blogs, videos for developers to learn about all the different open technologies that IBM works with.
Well, I have a lot of students in my class at the University of Washington are always, as they get into technical writing or are interested in it, they're always wondering, exactly what is it that I'll be doing as a part of this beyond the kind of obvious writing part. But like in your situation, what's a day in the life for Michelle like at IBM?
Oh gosh.
Besides the meetings.
Yeah, I know, way too many meetings. But when I can get the quiet time to do my writing and editing, it's usually working with a lot of subject matter experts and interviewing and reading drafts or specifications for something that we're trying to write about. And I spend a lot of time in a variety of different editors. I work in Word a lot just because it's a standard format that we can exchange. We've spent a lot of time working in XML and DITA. And most recently, we're starting to work in Markdown. And so we're starting to deliver a lot of our content in Markdown templates, which has been an interesting transition.
Well, I think most of us have a pretty good understanding of what's involved with how XML fits into our work and data maybe to a lesser extent, but Markdown is even more of a niche area. Why don't you just talk a little bit more about how it came about that you're exploring that?
I think that for the XML, it was an information development group as a way of formatting and presenting our content and semantically tagging that content to say what it is as opposed to how to format it. So it took away some of the formatting and let us focus on just the actual content. And we moved to Markdown because I'm working with the developer audience, and developers are very familiar with sort of simple code editors, and they prefer the Markdown language because it takes and simplifies and presents just the basic formatting. And so before we had a lot of different tags and a lot of different ways to sort of format content. And now we have even a more stripped down version of, bold, italic, list, table, and none of the fancier things that you get with HTML5 that you often transform to from the XML. So I think it was sort of a negotiation or a coming together between the developers that we were working with and then delivering content for developers in a format that they would probably recognize and be able to work with.
So is it the idea that the developers will be doing this baseline presentation layer on top of their words and phrases so that that's ready to be published immediately, or is that just an intermediate step that is used in further publication development?
A lot of teams are doing it slightly differently. It is a new development. We're just starting down that path. I think it's a way to try to make the content more open sourced, if you will, so that anybody can go in and make updates to it. Working out in GitHub, and GitHub has its own flavor of Markdown. So people can, say, oh, I have a suggestion for how to update that. Let me, pull it down and make some edits and suggestions and push it back to try to say, hey, what do you think? Does this, make it better? And so I think it came from that development environment, and now the technical writers are, meeting them there and starting to produce all of their documentation in a similar way.
Well, it's interesting to hear about how that is being used within your organization. And you mentioned, at the very start that being a technical editor is a core part of what you're involved with. And I know when I was, well, I'm old, but I know when I was just starting out in technical communication, most teams had one or more technical editors assigned to a group, and that's been less and less the case even in larger organizations to be able to rely on somebody for that. Your session topic's called Editing More Than Text, so give us a little bit of an idea of how you developed that presentation, but maybe also a little bit about how editing is set up as as something that you're specifically responsible for.
Sure. I think that there is this sort of pendulum between, the technical writers have an editor to no, wait, you got to do your own peer editing kind of environment. And when I was working as a technical editor, I tried to not just edit the words, not just edit the text. I was trying to be that first user of the information, whether that be a user guide in a PDF, or if it was online help, or as we got into embedded assistance and embedding the information directly into the user interface. And so because my team was producing that content or working with the UI designers on, putting the information into the interface, I felt like I needed to be right there with them editing that information. And so it was editing more than just the text. And this presentation came about for how to train some of the other technical editors to not just expect a Word document or a PDF file or something to edit, but to actually go in and take screenshots of the interface and how to go about presenting editing comments either to a technical writer or back to the developers themselves for, trying to get them to update the interface and update the information there.
And maybe if you could give me a little bit of an idea of how editing is set up as a career opportunity within IBM, or at least within your part of IBM.
Yeah, a lot of times in my previous areas, you sort of started out as a technical writer, and being a technical editor was something that you grew into. You gained a little bit of experience, you gained a little bit of knowledge both about the products that you were supporting as well as the processes and the writing process that they were following. And then you could progress a little bit in as a technical editor after that. In my current area, I'm mainly doing acquisition editing and development editing, where I'm helping to acquire content as well as then work to develop the content to deliver a tutorial or an article around a certain technology. And so there are several different types of editing going on, and I'm doing 2 of the 3 or 4 that my department works on. So you might come in and start out as a copy editor or a production editor, and then you'll move into the role that I'm in, doing development editing and acquisition editing.
Well, it's great to hear about how that's organized. It sounds like a pretty progressive structure for that aspect of TechCom, and look forward to seeing you at the conference in Raleigh in a few months.
Yeah, I'm excited to go back and visit my old stomping grounds, because I'm an alumni of NC State, and I got both my undergrad and master's degree from NC State, so it's going to be exciting.
And so, so you familiar with Caldwell Hall? And
I am. I
right.
spent many a day and night studying and working in those buildings.
All right, cool. Well, that's a nice add-on relationship benefit for that. So thanks again, and we'll see you in Raleigh. Bye-bye,
Yeah,
Michelle.
thank you.